Okay, everybody, welcome again to Kathy and I. We are here today. We're a little earlier than usual in the week because travel season is starting for both of us, and we've both got some plans. So the days that these come out might be a little bit erratic for a while. So you're just going to have to deal with it. But I'm Louise Edington, the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology. My website is louiseedington.com, and on YouTube I do all kinds of videos as well as these with Kathy, new and full moon videos, but extras as well with bigger things and weekly forecasts. And I also have memberships on YouTube and Substack. I have the Spiral Weave membership, and I also have a private membership community that you can find on my website, louiseedington.com. And you can find all the benefits for those if you click on things.
I'm Kathy Beal. My website is empowermentunlimited.net. My YouTube channel is Professional Aquarian. On Facebook, I have a page, Empowerment Unlimited, and also the Astro Insight Lounge, where we discuss astrology in the news. It's fairly political, but there are other things that come up as well. And I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Kathy Beal, where I have 35 to 60-second snappy daily forecasts. And I want to thank the people who forward Louise and me articles and videos through all kinds of social media and by an email. So I appreciate people trying to keep us up to date with the news, although we're pretty on track. At any rate, thank you very much.
Yeah, but please don't flood my inbox with them. I do appreciate
Send
it,
them to
but
me.
oh, anyway. Have you got your usual rundown
I
of things that
do.
have happened and
All right.
things?
We're going to start with some news that has been playing out, what we have forecast. And I've got it kind of in categories. We mentioned last weekend that we should be braced for even more outrageous and grandiose behavior from the White House occupant because of Jupiter moving over his full moon. And indeed, the White House issued an AI generated photo of him as the Pope, of him as a Star Wars hero with bulging muscles and a Sith lightsaber, which was hysterical. He decided that he should reopen Alcatraz, which has been closed since 1963 because of structural problems. And the word is that he was watching a movie about Alcatraz when he got that, and refusing to say that he honors the Constitution in an online, an aired video, and at the National Prayer Breakfast, bringing up election stuff
Yep.
again, hinting once again backhandedly that he did not win. Okay, so there was that. Then Pluto stationed retrograde at the degree where it was hit by Mars. Pluto deals with power. It's in the sign of electricity and the rules the internet, technology, AI. It's big money, things going on. So huge scandal. And so Pluto stationing retrograde, because it's been energized by Mars with connections to important election dates. I will not get off that horse. Big things happening. So that was him bringing up the election again at the National Prayer Breakfast.
And I
It,
think I think as well, just to add to it while we're on that, the
yeah,
election, I think the Election Truth Alliance now has three court cases in Pennsylvania. In
excellent.
yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Right. Oh, and along with that, a court has finally stopped the challenges in North Carolina by the Republican Supreme Court, state Supreme Court candidate against the Democrat who won, and that's finally been stopped. Yay. Intelligence agencies are saying that there's no basis for Trump's claim that a Venezuelan gang is invading the U.S., mounting a U.S. invasion, which is the basis of a whole lot of what he's up to with these deportations. The law firm Perkins Cole won a permanent injunction against the executive order against them. a group associated with Stephen Miller has filed suit against John Roberts and others to move the federal courts under the jurisdiction of the executive branch, which is incredibly, blatantly unconstitutional.
And
Um,
won't happen. It won't happen. I don't
Three
think.
judges now have blocked uh, ICE and Trump's reliance on the Insurrection Act or Alien Invasion Act or whatever. I think it's Insurrection Act.
Mm,
Uh, a court reversed all his block on funding the Institute of Museums and Libraries, enjoined
mm,
that as unconstitutional. And a prosecutor at the ICC has started a lawsuit against the executive order that was sanctioning him and the ICC. And as we said last week, Venus and Aries, Venus conjunct Neptune, Venus sextile Pluto, an inspirational woman moving into power, emerging. Kamala didn't just last week
mm.
speak at an organization called Emerge as Venus moved into Aries, but now this week with Venus in an opportunity aspect to Pluto, more and more power, something about money, big money, while she showed up walking the Met Gala. And then on the 6th, which is today, she is speaking at a major fundraiser in New York City. So many things in the news playing out what we've been saying. Are there any things that you
Jasmine Crockett as well. Speaking of women, kind of rising up, isn't she running for um
ranking member of the House
right?
Oversight Committee?
Yes, because Connolly's stepping down. He should never have been. Anyway, but that's yeah. Anyway, and she would be awesome as the ranking member. So, I hope she gets it. So, but that happened as well, speaking of women rising up. And we know AOC's still out there doing the thing with Bernie, and they were in Pennsylvania, weren't they? And you're closer to your neck of the woods. And yeah, yeah. So, you know, it's Harris and other women are rising up, as well as Letitia James and people like that, so, as we've looked at already. But speaking of women rising up, there is another rising up. So, shall we start with her?
Well, can I give the astrological aspects
Oh,
for the
yes.
week? Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Sorry.
This
Yes,
is an
forgot.
important week we're moving into. I'm just going to talk about May 10th through 18th, that finite amount of time, because a lot of stuff is happening that's interconnected. And I've said this to several people. I will say it on camera. If we had a functioning government, the aspects of this week could clear out all the people who are illegally there. And I know that's a drastic statement. I doubt that's what we're going to see, but I want you to know that is part of the potential. What's happening is that talk, communication, information is moving from fighter mode into show me the money, into very, very grounded, focused on resources. Mercury is moving into Taurus on the 10th, and a lot of people are going to start to see the personal impact of the chaos and of all these different financial things that are going on. People are going to start looking at their own toys, their own garden, and we will see and we'll be talking about whatever you set in motion at the Taurus new moon at the end of April. We're at a moment of starting to evaluate, look at, talk about, get information about. So that sets the tone. And Mercury has a number of important aspects. He starts the week, or on the 12th, he's in a shoving match with Pluto. I would say you should watch for big revelations, secrets, uncomfortable conversations. That's a really good time to get at something that's been bothering you or that
Mhm.
you suspect. But there's something that's saying move on it, do something, act on, make physical changes to technical problems, the different breaches in various networks and systems. the one at Newark is especially
Mhm.
near and dear to me because it is making my own travel plans change. But there are many, many, many other things, like what's been going on with our data. Uh, and so there's something big coming with that. And at the end of the week, so there's an execute possibly with this. And at the end of the week, yes,
Can I add to that one, the
please.
Mercury square Pluto? That happens 4 minutes before the Scorpio full moon on the same day, May the 12th. And of course, Pluto is the modern ruler guide, whatever you want to call it, for Scorpio. And it's a full moon, so both lights are shining their light on things. So,
And Uranus is part of the mix because
mhm,
Uranus is with the sun, and so
mhm,
there'll be shocking things, startling things coming out. A full moon brings dramas up to like 4 and 5 times bigger than they might have been. They're very intense when they're in Scorpio because they can deal with things that we don't normally talk about in public or that have shame
mhm,
or have criminality or something kind of unpleasant attached to them. And this sets up like a demand to start releasing some things, to purge, to get rid of some stuff. The sun
mhm,
completes its meeting with Uranus within a few days by the 17th. So this sets
yeah.
up a process of throw things out. And if you're hanging on to something, you or we could have a sudden zap that just breaks the hold and liberates and frees. And right after that, the bookend event for the week, after Mercury squares Pluto at the end of the week, on the 18th, Mercury squares Mars, the traditional ruler of Scorpio. And this is a walk your talk. This is a make some, don't just say things, make it happen. And I'm saying we get the exit cue, and then something says out the door with this. It's very, very uncomfortable, and it forces clearings, forces action, forces things, forces them out, forces purging, some level of closet clearing going on here. You'll probably hear the phrase draining the swamp. Maybe the swamp does get drained. Again, if we had a functioning government, this is a lineup for it to get drained.
And I'll add one other event on May the 16th, series, which is our needs, what feeds us, all things like that, moves into Aries and joins Neptune and follows along with Venus and all those kind of things. And, I think that will also add to that sense of, the women and also kind of like mothers rising up in many ways. So, mhm, mhm.
Might that have something to do with food as well?
Oh yeah, but it's more about the food is not reaching us, so we're going to
Right,
rise up, fight. It's like
exactly.
feels like yes. hmm Yeah, so because when the boats are stopping arriving, and shelves start to empty because of the tariffs, that will affect, that will be series.
So next week is tariff talk. Everyone's going to have tariff talk, tariff and technology talk.
Yep, 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 yep. So, okay, who are we going to look at first?
Well, you were talking about women
Yeah,
rising, and there's one woman
yeah,
that's
let's
pretty
look at her.
unavoidable.
Oh, yeah. Pam Bondi. We're going to look at the less pleasant side of things this week.
That's at
We've
Scorpio.
yes, exactly. We're going to look at the deep. So first we'll look at her natal chart, and we had a chat about this before. She has a powerful mutable T square that is being, um, bigger picture. We've got all the eclipses coming up and have been happening in Virgo and Pisces. They're going to start affecting her mutable T square more and more. And she has, like me, has Mercury in Sagittarius, which is said to be in detriment. I always hate that term, but there you go. Um, but it is kind of can be very much my way or the highway, and we've never seen you know um, anybody do what she's doing. From it's just outrageous. So I'll let you talk about the other kind of.
Well, a couple of things about that T square. The first I'll point out is the Pisces end of it is Chiron and Pisces conjunct Ceres. I'm
Mhm.
wondering if there's some level of overcompensation in the stuff that comes out of her, uh,
Mm,
and that might be part of why her talk is so bullying. And the second thing I want to say is that pile up in Virgo in her solar 10th house. We don't have a time of birth for her.
mm.
Um, that she's part of the mid 60s generation that has a signature with the two change agents together. So there's something about her that, her goal or her mission does have to do with uh, changing things on a very granular level. And with the moon in Virgo, who knows? First off, I would not have wanted to know her mother or how she viewed her mother with this. Um, so these things are pressuring that Mercury, so there could be a terrific amount of overcompensation
Oh,
coming off of that.
and I will, I do a more kind of psychological kind of soul astrology practice in my practice with clients. And Mark Jones, great British astrologer, calls this a trauma signature. And we see it, a lot of people with this have trauma, but hers, like to go to the overcompensation side of it, I think she has real issues from her upbringing. I don't know much about her past, but probably from her, she's a woman fighting against women's rights and things as well, supporting this regime that does that. So she's obviously got big issues with all those things, in my opinion. So Mother Moon, sorry, I should.
Right.
That's why I said, and also Pluto can be like grandmother in many ways. So I think, she's got this ancestral stuff that she is not prepared to deal with, and she's taking it out on us.
Well, and to bring the eclipses in it, there's going to be a Pisces lunar eclipse at 15 Pisces at the beginning of
Mhm.
September, and that is going to go across her solar 410 axis and hit that moon. And
I can actually bring that one up. So, mhm.
you can start to feel eclipses a few months in advance. This is the beginning of September, so possibly the beginning of June, we might just start to see lunar eclipses and cycles.
And then, because eclipses are new and full moons conjunct the nodes, the transiting nodes, the nodes will sit at 18 degrees right through those eclipses. And that means this impacts her.
Exactly.
It just is a lot on her chart.
So
Um,
lunar eclipses bring revelations. They
mhm,
throw people out of your life. They bring endings. This is going across her home and career axis.
mhm.
And even though the event actually happens in early September, there could be shock waves earlier. Just remember that. We have brought up disruption and instability showing up in the chart of every member of the administration that we looked at.
Yeah.
And that's
And
the case for her as well.
And on the lead up to it, she's going to have a Jupiter return as well because Jupiter's, still in Gemini. So we'll go back to the full moon, but it's Jupiter's moving fast now before it moves into Cancer, and she's going to have a Jupiter return, and that's in her solar eighth house, which is shared resources, but also can be a place of death, like not less physical death always, could be, you know.
Secrets and crimes. And
Yes.
and she's for those of you who aren't aware, I have a long, decades-long background as an attorney. What she's
Mm,
doing is not legal. It's just not legal. On a daily basis, what she's doing is not legal.
yeah.
Um, and I think that the turn of events does
Mm.
start with the Scorpio full moon. So I am saying
Oh,
there
let
is
me
a
get that.
window. there's a window now of real instability and trouble and challenges to her even staying in her job starting now.
I heard that somebody has gone to the Florida Bar Association to
Oh, a
try and
lot
get,
of people have gone to the
or
Florida.
have they? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not surprisingly, because it's even I know, I'm not a lawyer like you that's trained. This is so illegal what she's doing. But here's the full moon chart. This is uh, very close to her sun, but it's also, midpoints. I don't always use them, but she has a Neptune in Scorpio and a sun in Scorpio, and this is approximately exactly on her midpoint. And that means it's also hitting um, that transiting Uranus is opposing her sun. This is not a good full moon for her at all.
That transiting Uranus is pretty much on the doorway to her house of one-on-one relationships and open enemies. So this could be her marriage. This could be working for her Lord and Master.
Mhm.
And it could be some force outside of her coming at her. Various things.
Open enemies, they call
Open
this.
enemies. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it could be something that's been brewing that suddenly breaks open. Um, who there are many possibilities here, but if her boss is taken down, she goes down.
Yes. Yeah.
Now
Well, oh,
you'd seen something else that involved her north node later. What and it was a progression or
oh, yes, I did. Let me get the thanks
and
for
I'm sorry,
reminding
everybody. I
me.
know I stepped on Louise's talking there. I know that
No,
bothers
no, no, no,
me,
no, it's fine.
but no, we get complaints about over talking. I apologize for that. I don't like doing that.
Stop complaining, people. We're just having a lively conversation. We always circle back to what we were talking about. So on May the 24th, Saturn, transiting Saturn, by the way, is going to square her natal Jupiter at that anaretic degree. So transiting Saturn before it moves into Aries is going to square that Jupiter as she's approaching her Jupiter return on June the 9th. But then Jupiter will also oppose her Mars um, at 2 Cancer Capricorn on June the 20th. That was all I saw for her. Mhm.
So that's I mean, that adds a little bit more
Oh,
to
it does.
things blowing up, things getting bigger, especially just to explain to people when transiting Saturn is at the very last degree of the zodiac, pushing on her Jupiter at the very last degree of the sign of communication and messaging. Uh, that could be something clamping down on her. That it
Mhm.
could very well be something clamping down on her.
Yeah, these it's the last minutes, 4 minutes of the sign. These last degrees, anaretic degrees, they're called in astrology, are known as critical degrees, right? And just to look at the day that this squares, she's almost on her Jupiter return. Ceres again is at 2 Aries, which was the Venus star point, but that's square her Mars. Mhm.
Um, I noticed a couple of other really hard aspects with this. The North Node, well, the North Node will be trine her moon, I mean her sun, but
Mm.
look at Eris at 25 Aries and an adjustment aspect to her 25-degree Scorpio sun, and then down at the bottom of the chart, Pallas Athena at 24 Aquarius squaring her moon. These are two female-driven influences, one that's risk-taking and pretty angry, and one that's very strategic and sort of cold, and they're both coming at who she is and what she is.
And to go back to a date we mentioned last week, June the 1st, we have Venus, Eris, and Chiron all at 25 degrees, all in that adjustment aspect in two Mars ruled signs. right? And remember, her Mars was is being squared as well, but that's on her Jupiter return, pretty much. And Jupiter returns are like a big turning of the wheel. They, they happen every 12 years. There's often a big um, um, kind of life turning with Jupiter returns. And often they're quite fortuitous because Jupiter is the greater benefic, as they call it. But not always. You have to look at the whole chart. This Jupiter returns are always a life, something changes in your life. It's like literally the wheel in the tarot, it's turning.
And there are many influences hitting her basic self, her identity. Her identity is being pushed and prodded and under attack from many directions.
I'm just noticing as well that
Yeah, just
on that day, the Moon and Mars are conjunct, and they're pretty much square her Neptune. So that can be a taking. I I won't be surprised if she is not in her position much longer, shall we say?
I'm with you.
Whether it's him that gets rid of her because yeah. Anyway, who would you like to look at next?
Uh, Russell Vought.
What? Well, because I opened so many charts, let me just search for him. That's all right. It will take me 1 second. There he is. So this is the architect of Project 2025. What's his role now? I forget
Yeah,
what
he does have a role somewhere in the
he's.
administration.
He's kind of the one that does all the kind of organizational things, isn't he, or something? Yeah, I can't remember his role. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's like,
I will look it up while you're doing that.
yes, thanks. Yeah, and I looked up his transits and progressions, and first thing I noticed was we'll look at his natal chart while Cassie looks it up. There's Saturn is conjunct his Mercury on May the 27th at 0 Aries. He has a 0 Aries Mercury up here in this chart. Why is that defaulted and is not Sun on the first? I did thought I changed it there, so let me just change that. Okay, there's his Mercury. Saturn, that could be him clamping down, but also it could be people realizing what he's really doing. And
He's the director of the Office of Management and Budget.
that's, yeah,
Pretty major. That's a very powerful
it's
position.
very powerful. Also, Chiron is going to be active for him. Chiron by transit on June the 8th will square his Saturn, which is not very good. But that's also just before his Chiron return on June the 16th, or the first pass of his Chiron return. And a lot of people find their Chiron returns quite a painful transition, really. And I always think, it's another cycle that's often brings a change in your life. But anyway, let's look at his natal chart now
Well,
that
he
we.
he has a mutable T-square as well,
Yes.
at pretty much the same degree as Pam Bondi, but involving slightly different.
Mm,
So there's Neptune in Sag in the ninth. That can be very idealistic, but also jingoistic isn't quite the word. It's I know better than you do. So real strong, ideological. There we go.
yeah.
So ideological, possibly religious, and its opposite series in Gemini in the House of Communication, and they are both squaring Venus in Pisces in the most hidden part. Now, and this puzzled me because Venus in Pisces can be incredibly empathic and
Mm.
caring and aware of the needs and pains of others.
But I'm going to suggest actually, and we kind of mentioned this before we recorded, but as I'm looking at this now, he was divorced in 23. We don't know much about him. We don't even know if he was born in Chicago.
We
We've
know
read
what
him,
state. He's
yeah,
in Illinois.
state,
That's the
yeah,
most we could find.
yeah. But I think he's got real big women issues, huge, and I think that's what's happening with his Venus in Pisces, which is why he is part of this project 2025 that wants to kind of basically put women as handmaids to help
Mhm.
creatures. I think he may not talk about it openly because he's kind of this hidden figure. He's one of these, which is also very Neptunian and Pisces, right? You can't find out much about him, but I think he's got real women issues and series involved in that as well. And again, it's another, I think all these unhealed people are taking out their personal issues on the collective. So, anyway.
And the ideological fervor is
Mm,
only getting fueled. You see, he has Mercury at 0 degrees Aries. And so Neptune has moved there, and Neptune's just basically going to be hanging out there
and let's
in,
put the
into
transits
the
on.
fall. And then Venus is there at the end of May on the
Mhm,
24th. Saturn is there. So that activity involving his Mercury at 0 Aries could be pumping up his
mhm,
notion that he's doing God's work or that he has some kind of religious higher mission in what he's doing,
yeah.
which we could expect to either expand or explode when Jupiter moves into Cancer at the like I think it's the 9th of June, and then it pressurizes that. It squares it, it pressurizes it. So he may be coming more and more to the fore. We might be seeing, hearing a lot more from him
Mhm,
because of this. And I'm going to suggest that the Scorpio full moon also has special little treats for him.
mhm.
Um,
Oh, I'm trying to just get one. Oh, that's because I'm trying to put Adobe's arrows on things. I'm just trying to show you Pluto is making an adjustment aspect to his Mars, and Pluto is just stationed retrograde. And Pluto and Mars are, kind of very similar energy, and they're both co rulers of this Scorpio full moon that's coming up. And then Jupiter's going to activate that as well. Pluto moves really slowly. So and he's got Mars in Cancer, and if we just use Sun on the first, the solar sign chart, this is his family again, or and his inner self and his home. Um, he's going to be under deep emotional pressure, I think, actually.
Yeah, may already be. And
Mm,
add to that that Venus is, there's a T-square. If you pull transiting Venus, no, it's not a T-square. What am I saying? Transiting Venus is at 4 Aries, and so it's been hammering that Mars as well. Um, there could be overcompensation coming out. We could start to hear more from him since Mars is in the third house. And he could have all kinds of talk about how this is for the good of the country, Mars in Cancer. But I say next week's going to be a difficult week for him. Could you put the full moon up?
I will, yes. And just say Pluto, but any aspect from Pluto, especially when it's stations retrograde or direct at that same degree, puts extreme pressure on whatever it's aspecting. So here's the full moon. Go ahead, Kathy.
We don't know exactly when he was born, but that 21-degree Aquarius moon in his chart is pretty It's in the vicinity of that. Pallas Athena at 23, transiting 23, um, Aquarius is forming a T square to the moon. The moon's at 22 Scorpio, 22 Taurus across his money houses, and everything's getting pressured in a very public way. The 11th house, hopes and fears, group associations. This is Congress. This is strategy. This is people standing up and saying, wait a minute, we have a clear vision of the way things should be. Um, it's going to be an uncomfortable week for him or time. And Uranus is uh, shaking things up in terms of his values and his ability to, I don't know, make things happen.
Mhm.
Eh, I'm not saying he's going to be fired, but I'm saying he'll be under the gun quite a bit next week.
Well, and upcoming too. I'll go back to that June 1st date that I keep saying watch. Venus will have moved to 25 degrees. Chiron will be at 25 degrees. That's like yeah, 1 degree from his Chiron, and it passes his palace, his natal Pallas Athena too. I think he's going to have a very painful Chiron return, to be quite honest. But it might manifest first as him kind of like Aries can be really kind of forceful, like doubling down on his efforts to kind of im- implement Project 2025. And but then I think people are going to see it and go, no, we're not doing that.
He's had some, well, no, two other things involving eclipses. The
Mm,
Aries new moon, the solar eclipse that ended the Aries Libra cycle, happened opposite his Pluto.
mhm,
So something involving agreements, contracts, collaborations, and power, big collaborations, got shot into motion. Yeah, he was appointed to be the head of the OMB. But we started by pointing out a T square that is pressuring his Venus in Pisces in the 12th house of hidden things, self-undoing, recuperation, stuff that goes on behind the scenes. The September 7th lunar eclipse is right on top of that. So again, this brings endings, it brings revelations.
mhm,
It will, I mean, we may start feeling it a few months in advance, which is again, what did I say? June. So he, his day-to-day activity, what he's doing with himself, may hit a point of departure
mhm,
over
definitely.
the summer.
And you know, he's Chiron will have gone retrograde by that eclipse. That's almost exactly on his Venus and
Oh,
that. But
it's part of his Chiron return.
but Chiron will have gone retrograde to have his second pass of his Chiron return. Most people have three passes of Chiron returns, by the way, because it's got a 51-year orb, so it kind of goes back and forth over the placement. And so, he's he's under pressure and not fun for him. I do think that that's the Saturn aspects. Where's his natal Saturn? Oh, 26 Cancer. Yeah, is gonna the fact that that is going to be squared by transiting Chiron as well on his Chiron return is not good with all the other aspects. Mhm.
Doesn't bode well for home life, that is for sure, since he has Saturn in the fourth.
Exactly. Yes. Yep. So I'd love to know more about his divorce, but he's, like I said, that hidden figure who we can't find much about him. But um, looking at the way the media, which I know we all complain about, and they have started to do stories about these people And one such person, are you ready to move on?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is this person.
Yeah.
Voldemort. He's disgusting. Anyway, Stephen Miller. I've seen, stories about his upbringing. He was brought up in very liberal Santa Monica and seemed to like be disgusted with all the liberals and things in California, and that seems to have turned him into what he is now. So again, we don't have a time, but we do know where he was born. And again, it's converted back to, I swear
While you're moving that,
yeah.
I want to point out that transiting Pluto is squaring his natal Pluto, and his it's opposing his Ceres. So there's a T square going on
Mm-hmm.
that is
Yes.
really pushing. I mean, this could be pushing him into power grab. I'm going to do what I can. This might be part of the obsession with controlling the media, controlling the conversation, controlling what is taught, solar third house, the fascination with prisons, that could be part of it too.
Oh,
Like what are we going to do to people? Since we don't have a time of birth, we don't have an exact degree for his moon, but it's close to that Uranus one way or another. That is not a comfy, cozy place. So this is him with ideological extremism or disruptive, iconoclastic ways of thinking about things. And Sagittarius can be, I'm right and you're wrong.
hmm.
So that is coming through, but notice that it is opposing his, oh gee, look at that, Chiron and Pallas. So I am betting that he felt like an outsider
Oh,
somehow in his community growing up. Maybe
yeah.
he's not an unintelligent man. In fact, that is part of the issue. He is very intelligent, but there must have been something with the way he talked that he maybe just set people off all the time.
Oh,
That is entirely possible with
I
his way
think.
of being.
But just to say, think back to the previous two charts we've looked at. They all had something around 13, 14 degrees of these mutable signs. This is Gemini and Sagittarius, mutable signs again. So, we'll look at how he's impacted too, but he's another one that's being hit by the eclipses upcoming, also various, a couple of other things too. So,
Could you put the Scorpio full moon chart
yeah.
around his?
Mhm.
So the September 15th lunar eclipse is going to square that configuration we talked about and create what's called a
Oh,
grand cross, and it'll feel like he's being uh, suspended and not able to get out of something. So just remember that. Okay.
hmm. But before that, we have this Scorpio full moon this week, right on his Saturn. Woohoo! Sorry.
So, secrets coming out about how his use of power, his secretiveness, his I don't know, possibly criminality, his something to do with money. But there will be disclosures, big disclosures involving him this week.
Mhm.
And the Mercury and Mars aspects that start and end the week, the Mercury Pluto square, and then the Mercury Mars square at the end of the week with this full moon in the middle. Pluto and Mars both rule the sign that his Saturn is in. Something very unpleasant coming to the fore involving this man next week.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm just going to mention his personal transits as well. Chiron is affecting him as well. May the 14th, right after this full moon, transiting Chiron will square his Venus. So,
The people
natal,
will be angry.
the people will be very angry. So, there's his Venus in Cancer. also, he's got some interesting Neptune Jupiter aspects coming up.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Glad
So
you brought that up.
his solar arc Neptune, and we would look at a solar arc Neptune, even though it's a long thing by transit, but by solar arc it exactly conjuncts his natal Jupiter on May the 17th. So that's there we go in Aquarius, and transiting Jupiter in June on June the 13th will oppose his natal Neptune. So let me get that one exact and we can just have a quick
And
look.
the way that might play out, since it's in several directions, Jupiter and Neptune being involved. First, these are the two most boundless influences in the sky. Secondly, there could be,
And
uh,
they rule his moon too.
so he could
So
think that he is heaven
thinks
sent,
he's
he's
God.
God, he's the voice of God.
Yeah.
And there's an ideological, heaven sent, I will do this. I am here. I'm Metatron. Who knows what it'll be? Um, well, I doubt he knows who Metatron is.
Yeah.
Uh, the voice of God is what I meant, not the entity people say they channel.
Yes. Yeah. But also Saturn by transit on June the 8th. Okay, so where am I? Oh, Saturn will have moved into Aries, will square his natal Neptune. So he's got all these, but I think that one is going to be a big slap in the face for him. And for us, people are going to get clarity about how he just literally has this almost like God complex, like delusional, thinks he can do all this stuff, and that people are just going to take it. I think that's what he's saying. At the same time as Jupiter exactly opposes his natal Neptune, remembering that his solar arc Jupiter is also it. Um, what was I going to look at? Oh, yes. The nodes will have moved to 22 degrees Virgo and Pisces and will be aspecting that Saturn that was hit by the full moon. So it's kind of a progress of all these
Hmm.
things. I think he's literally he's going to think he can do everything, and people are going to see it and go, holy shit. Well, I think they're seeing it already. So sorry,
But
shouldn't
they'll
swear.
see more.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I keep saying there is stuff happening to
Mm-hmm.
everybody in this
Yeah.
administration coming up that is very, very disruptive, very disruptive. And if we look at a solar chart for Stephen Miller, in July, Uranus moves across his midheaven. It's there. It's just bam. So things are already destabilized for him. He could be doing as much as he possibly can if he senses that there's trouble brewing, but none of these people have foundations that show years long in these positions. There's
No.
just not there. The stability is not there. The foundation is not there. And there are many things coming up that will be pulling things out of corners, out of back rooms, out of closets, out of the dark web. Who knows?
Yes,
Uh,
very much so.
Very much
It's
so. Oh, I'll point out Anonymous. I didn't mention this because it doesn't really, Anonymous has hacked um, uh, charter plane logs that Homeland Security has used to send detainees to other countries. So they've got the names of the passengers. I wouldn't be surprised if Anonymous starts hacking and pulling out information that has to do with the financial dealings of these people
mm,
as well.
mm. And we've mentioned it before, so we'll quickly kind of look at it again. The eclipse in September also hits him, but this is his south node. It's aspecting his nodes by 2 degrees, but that also means, but it's also square to his Uranus Chiron Pallas Athena opposition. And like Kathy has said a couple of times, you feel eclipses coming.
And when it makes a mutable grand cross like that, it can be feeling like you're being drawn and quartered, being pulled in multiple directions. And this involves him, first house, his home and family,
Mhm.
and fourth house, his partnerships, his marriage, his relationship with the guy in the White House, and then
Mhm.
his career up there at 10th house. So this is all like the pillars of his existence, the cornerstones of his existence get just stretched and pulled. Um, yeah, I'm seeing very, very old toys from the 70s that they pull these things. So that's what I'm seeing here. So
Oh, yeah, I know those toys. Yeah, yeah, good analogy. So I think that's it for this week. But whilst I don't love looking at these characters, I think it's important that we do and show you that, all these, again, all these pieces are, we're pulling them in, all these people are starting to see them for who they are. Many psychics are talking about a sting operation, aren't they? The truths are coming to light from various places about election interference, shall we say, and so on and so forth. And it's we're trying to show it's so far spread out. There's so many pieces to it that Harris and Biden could not have just done something to challenge the election. There's so much going on here, decades in the planning, but I think more and more people are starting to see it. That's my thought. And as to when it will all be over, don't know exactly when. Too many pieces.
it's unsustainable. There is way, way too much that is unstable
Oh,
and disruptive going on. And sooner or later, the people that control the biggest amounts of money are going to get tired of them.
mhm,
And the last time that I should look up the exact date, but there was a time in the 30s, and we do have some recurrences of aspects from the 30s. There
mhm,
was a time in the 30s when J.P. Morgan and various other financiers went to a bunch of generals to try to stage a coup because they didn't like what FDR was doing. And the general said no.
mm. Yeah,
I'm not for sure they would say no now.
I'm not so sure either. No, because as imperfect as it was, you know, things overall were generally working. That doesn't mean there's things that shouldn't have been, that couldn't be changed. But what's happening now is just outrageous. Anyway, yeah. So,
Anyway, watch next week. Next week is popcorn week. Next week is
oh, it
pick
is.
your battles and notice where you are. I intend to be on a beach for some of it. Uh,
Oh, I'm actually doing more traveling than I wish I was during this time, but I'm going to have a great time anyway. It's going to be wonderful. So, yeah, I'll still be having my popcorn, phone in hand, looking for the headlines popping up. So, but otherwise, keep doing what you can. Do your self-care, 5 calls app. Just keep plugging along, take part, join in the local community. Oh, I became a first vice chair of one of the caucuses in the local Democratic Party, the Progressive Caucus. We're trying to change the party from the inside out, which is Bernie's thing. And that's one part I'm playing, and it's not a very big role, but I haven't got time to do loads. So do what you can, as always, and make sure you're doing your self care.
and have some fun. Be with people you
Yeah.
enjoy. Do things that remind you of why you are alive. And with this energy in Taurus, create something. Do something with your hands. Bake,
Mm.
make cookies, make a pie. Okay, you're going to say, but I can't bake. All right, well, you know, doodle, draw, craft, stick your
And,
hands in the
and
dirt, do
or,
something.
or something good makes your body feel good, if you like, whatever. Just and joy I see as self care, by the way. Anything that lights you up is self care to me. I'm not talking about dutiful manicures here. So yeah, until next time. I can't remember what day we're recording next week, but
We'll be back next week.
we'll be back next week. So watch for that. Bye, everybody.